I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go, kiddos. It's the Daily Puck Drop Tuesday, May 13th. We welcome you into another edition of the live Daily Puck Drop. Watching on YouTube, hello, YouTubers. You can always leave a comment and comment away in the YouTube section. Also, we're on Twitter there as well. If you'd like to listen to just our listening audience, the Puck Sports mobile app is available. If you don't know anything about the Puck Sports mobile app, download it today for your iPhone. So from the App Store. And for you Google users or Android users, download it from the Google Play Store. Puck Sports mobile app, you can listen to the show on the move, on the go. It is the best feature for live listening. Now, for those who, if you want to watch later, everything's up on YouTube later. Just search Puck Sports, and, of course, on all the different podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you want to find your favorite podcast. And back to YouTube just for a quick second. Please like it. Please subscribe to the show. Leave comments there as well. I get to them all. I try to get to them all, even the ones that say, this show is terrible. I reply usually, you are correct, sir. You are 100% correct. But we're still here. We're still here despite your thoughts and your feelings. All right. We'll get to that in a second. We're broadcasting from the Limbeck Lumber Studios, as we always do, right over my left shoulder there. They offer free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. They've got the largest stock moldings in the Northwest. They've got old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. Give Limbeck Lumber a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbecklumber.com. All right. You can follow the show and me at all the social media platforms, Puck Sports on Twitter, Instagram, on Blue Sky, Puck_sports on TikTok, and also on Facebook there as well. And, of course, everything up at pucksports.com, by the way. And when you're at pucksports.com, you can sign up to be a Puck's Posse member, by the way. It's easy and it's simple. And I'll just show you. You might be, well, I don't even know where it's at. I'm going to show you where it's at. If you're watching the show, it's at the top of the webpage right there. It says new membership, joins Puck's Posse. And then underneath that is the Puck the Picker Majors Pool. It's our season-long golf contest. We pick two golfers in every major. We're through the Masters. Next up is the PGA Championship this week. Our entire coverage of the Puck the Picker Majors Pool brought to you by Synthetic Turf and syntheticturfnorthwest.com. Visit them today. Get rid of that messy backyard. Get rid of the mud. Stop watering your lawn. Put in a pet-friendly synthetic turf lawn installation and do what I did. Add a 3-hole or 5-hole or whatever hole putting green. Work on that golf game, that putting, because that's where you get, come on. Drive for show, putt for, say it, putt for dough. Okay? Summer's here. Got to work on that putting. Just like me, start putting away. Synthetic Turf Northwest is going to get you covered. They are the proud presenting sponsors of Puck the Picker Majors Pool. And so if you missed out on the Masters, by the way, you can still enter the PGA Championship for our season long, because we'll do the U.S. Open next month and then the Open Championship. Then the overall leader of this will win the grand prize, which is a stay-and-play package at Gamble Sands. Now, second place is not a sleeve of golf balls like other places. Second place is a foursome to Fairwood Golf and Country Club. Third place, again, not a sleeve of golf balls. Third place is a foursome at Mill Creek Country Club. And when you play the golf course, I'll find out which hole she's on. Say hello to Ashley Lola Ryan on your way there. Hello, Ashley. And then fourth place, again, not a sleeve of golf balls, which is for some others the second place prize. But fourth place is a foursome at one of Troon's Seattle Premier golf courses, which is either West Seattle, Jackson, or Bill Wright, formerly Jefferson Park Golf Course, and then an hour top tracer range session. Again, not a sleeve of golf balls. So there you go. That's Puck the Picker Major Spool, brought to you by Synthetic Turf Northwest. Go visit Synthetic Turf Northwest. Our guy Mike, who runs that shop, what an operation. They're in, they're out. I've never seen a group, when they did that installation a year and a half ago, I've never seen a group come in and excavate and put in something as fast as they did. And they did it in like a driving rainstorm. So it's quality, it is fast, and it's efficient, and it's wonderful. And you will not be disappointed when you visit syntheticturfnorthwest.com. All right. What do we got coming up on the show today? We're going to talk Mariners. Their starters stumbled again. We're going to talk to Jim Duquette coming up here momentarily, by the way. We'll get into the sports pit. We'll give you a little teaser of this week's sports pit around 10 minutes or so. If you want the full show, again, go to pucksports.com, sign up to be a Pucks Posse member. Just $5 a month. Many of you are signing up. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It goes to support all the free stuff that we do, all the daily content. You want this little mom and pop venture to continue, I encourage you to please sign up to be a Pucks Posse member. You get a discount if you sign up for a year. We're giving you so much. I'm working overtime for you, but I love it. We've got the sports pit that comes out every Monday. It's an hour and 10 minutes today. We're going to give you about 10 minutes of it. I think a real funny part. We really reminisced about old KJR days, like really kind of went into the weeds. I would say if you were a long time back in the day KJR listener, what I like to call the heyday, you're going to really, really enjoy this one because it's got a lot of old names, guys that behind the microphone, like producers and such, that you may remember, funny stories. Schmitty from Somerville, Mass, if you remember him, Matt Pops Gash, 1460 Clark Strauss, John Fuhrer. I mean, there's just a lot. Great stories about Mitch and Gas and Softy and Groz. Just a real funny episode. Myself, Steve Sandmeyer, and Matt Stretch Johnson. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you're going to love this episode of the Sports Pit this week because it's a good one. Also, a reminder on Thursdays, Mitchie the Kid is with me. So Mitchie the Kid and I, that's Mitch Levy, by the way, we'll be doing a segment together. We debuted it last week. It will be in the live daily puck drop, by the way. Now, here's the catch, and I'm going to have to keep reminding everyone of this catch. Once the show is ended, which we usually end around 11:30, the portion with Mitchie the Kid, that is not available to everyone. That will only be available for Pucks Posse members. So you can watch it live and watch it for free or listen to it for free. But once we're stopped, it will not be part of the daily puck drop, both audio and video. You can only, if you want to watch it, if you miss it, want to watch or listen to it later, you're going to have to go and be a Pucks Posse member. Or if you are a Mitch Unfiltered member, by the way, you can access it that way because it's going to be on both platforms. So you can pick and choose. You know, I'm the smaller guy. Pick me. But either way works, either through Mitch or through my platform. The M starters stumble again. We'll get more into that here momentarily here with Jim Duquette. 11-5 loss last night. They're now 22-18. They've lost 4 straight, season high. They're stumbling a little bit. Emerson Hancock, who had been good since getting into the rotation, minus that first start, stumbles yesterday there in the 5th inning. 6 runs off Emerson Hancock. Just doesn't have that wipeout stuff that you need sometimes, especially against a good team like that. But he stumbled in that particular inning. And so they've hit a little bit of a speed bump here. Have our Los Marineros. Can they turn it around? There's a man that we have on next. He is our GM. He's going to tell you, don't worry about it. They're fine. Stop jumping off the SS Mariner. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Puck Sports' GM. It's Jim Duquette who joins us every single Tuesday. MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 89 on your dial. Follow him on social media, Jim Duquette GM, former GM of the Mets and Orioles, current GM of Puck Sports. Hi, Jim.
Good afternoon. Good morning. How are you?
All right.
No panic. You're not panicking, are you?
Not yet. Not panicking yet. Should we be panicking though after losing 4 straight?
No, I don't think so. I think the obviously concerned Toronto. Toronto is not a team that is one of the better ones in the league. I think just watching that. So I think when you're losing to teams that you should beat, that it does throw up a little bit more of a flag during this period. But every team, goes through down periods or teams that you should beat and they don't. That happens a lot throughout the league, not just there this past weekend. So, I think a better test or a better comparison is, right now when you have the Yankees into town, how does that stack up? But the hardest part here is, or the silver lining is they're still doing this well without 2 of their top starters, and it's really hard to measure yourself against the Yankees if you don't have Kirby and Gilbert pitching.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's really the most, even in the front office side of things, the most difficult thing to do is, all right, what are you at this point in the season? You think you pretty much know, but it could be even better if those guys weren't out.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a cause of concern out here, Jim, has been the starting pitching. And I think that was even before, Gilbert went down with the injury. Now, they've never had Kirby yet. So, right. But they haven't worked deep into games. They have one of the bottom third or close to it ERAs for starters. So a strength of this baseball team for the last few years has been the starters, and it's been the offense we've always talked about. They've switched roles right now. It's the offense is carrying the team, and the starters have been the ones that have been struggling.
And I think that's the biggest surprise. Like even looking at some of the offensive numbers prior to this weekend, they were, I know it was the early part of May, but they were one of the top offenses in the in the sport in the month of May until the J series, which doesn't make any sense. I think overall, that offense. I think I look at it. It's interesting because they look at some of the secondary numbers and it looks like most of the offense has been hitting into some bad luck, at least on balls in play. They're not, hits aren't falling for them. There's a lot of, some of the hitting coaches, if you were sitting in the room, they'd probably be telling you, hey, you're hitting the balls right at guys, stay with your same approach. So I think that's something that I'm not convinced that this offense is as good as it's shown still. But I think that there's still things on the pitching side that, are I think going to get better. Now we talked about Miller last week. I mean, it wasn't another bad outing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not seeing the same guy. So, they got to figure that out. They know us better than we do about what's going on behind the scenes, but it just doesn't look like his stuff is there.
Have you heard any whispers about anything that he's dealing with or a potential IL stint with him?
Have not heard that. We kind of suggested that there might be a potential there for, when we talked about this last week. Something's off though. If it's not physically, there's something off mechanically, that just doesn't seem right. The ball's not coming out of his hand the same way. So sometimes you work through this. What I think bothers me is we've continued to see this. Like usually you'll see an adjustment period, and we haven't quite seen that adjustment back yet. And you mentioned Hancock. I mean, I think that's the biggest issue as I see Hancock moving forward is he doesn't have a lot of swing and miss in his stuff. And, the league, if you look around the league, the guys who perform at the high levels have swing and miss. So, I think that, where he's slotted in that, back end of the starting rotation, maybe it'll get better. There are times when it has looked good, but I think there's limitations on his ceiling, and it kind of goes back to all right, well, in the past, you probably saw this in the minor leagues. Is there something you could have done to, improve your roster and used him as trade bait?
Do you, so much of our focus in Seattle has been, what will they do at the deadline to add offensive help? Now, the offense has not been a concern. It's been well documented how good this offense has been. Now, it will come back down to reality, and I don't think it should prevent them from adding offense at some point.
Right.
But when do they start looking at adding pitching. You can never have enough pitching, whether that's a starter or another arm in the bullpen, because the one concern you could have is relying too much on Matt Brash, who's coming back from Tommy John surgery.
Right.
So who could be available? Who do you think would be available? It's never too early to talk about this, but in terms of arms at the deadline, Jim?
I think there's a couple places, there's, and right now, like I thought if you had asked me this a month ago or even 2 weeks ago, I would have said, oh, Cardinals have Ryan Helsley as a back end reliever. That now they're in the midst of I think 9 in a row. They've won the longest win streak in the major leagues. Now, I don't expect that to continue, but he's one of the best relievers out there that I think, there's going to be plenty of teams on. He's one that I would say for sure. Outside of that, Pittsburgh's trying to generate value out of David Bednar, who early in the season was really bad. They set him down for a little bit. He's been better as of late. I just watched him last night. He ended up getting the loss, but I mean, he's a guy that I would look at him as more of a 7th or 8th inning guy. And after that, there's not an awful lot there. I think Kenley Jansen's a guy that with the Angels, he's going to be available. We know the track record. There's one of the all-time save leaders. So there's always good on the relief front. There's always good relievers that you'll be able to add. I think the Mariners at minimum will do that. But I think you start to look at that. Where you are, let's say by the first or second week of June. So a couple weeks away, 3 weeks away or so.
Right.
You get your full evaluation of your team and you start to focus on that. And that's when some of the conversations taking place now, but more of it will start to ramp up, that second week of June.
But do you like that idea with this team, even though their bullpen has been good? Do you like that idea of adding another arm there?
No, I think they have to. And I do think that would be, at least on the surface, that's the area, again, assuming that the other two guys come back and are pitching healthy, they're going to need some help there, in the bullpen. Probably could use a starter, but if they're not willing to go down that route, I think the bullpen for sure, just to add some more depth, I think that because they're being used a lot, I think you're going to have to take that workload, and kind of divide it up a little bit more. And I think adding another guy from outside the organization would help.
Yeah. Jim Duquette, of course, with us, MLB Network Radio, Sirius, XM Channel 89. He joins us here every week on the Daily Puck Drop and pucksports.com. You can follow him on social media, Jim Duquette, GM. All right, let me just stick here with the Mariners for a quick second. The style of play that they execute offensively, we've talked about it a lot. You've seen some real improvement of how they have been able to work deeper into games, work deeper into counts in their approach. It's a throwback in a way. I mean, they still are hitting the long ball, and they aren't hitting many doubles at all, which has been kind of a problem, but they're striking out less and they're walking more. That would be a sign to me, those two last stats. I know we've discussed this before, signs of things that they can build on that have lasting staying potential.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, with good offenses around the league, the majority of them, have a power component, which is what the Mariners are showing. They have a speed component in the days that you're not doing much offensively. You can have a chance to score runs via the stolen base or base running itself. They're at the top there. Getting on base and giving yourself opportunities. I don't know what their numbers are with runners in scoring position. But
still not great.
Right? And now I'm watching a team every day with the Mets that are down in the bottom of runners in scoring position as well, and they're winning a lot of games too. So you could overcome that just by sheer opportunities and more guys on base. So you don't have to improve, but improve in that area. Let's say you don't have to be at the top of the league in that area, but you don't want to be definitely down at the bottom for too long. So I think that they're going to have to see, and that's something that is controllable too. I mean, sometimes it's an approach, sometimes it's just being more aggressive, early in the count, that sort of thing. So I would suspect the way they've been showing, with their offense overall. I think that number will get better. I don't know. Have you
They
seen
are
the
there.
recent rankings for them?
Well, I'm just a baseball reference. Just look at their runners in scoring position. Their slash line's 232, 339, 374, OPS of 713.
232 towards the lower side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that's an area for sure. We'll I think get better. That's the thing with this. I think as we talked about last week, Texas, the Rangers, they've gone in a direction where it's less analytical. They're still going to be analytically driven, but I think with Seattle, they found a better and a happy medium of using the analytics, but also using kind of being the old school, the eye test of let's go up there with an approach, keep it simplistic for those guys that need the simplicity aspect of it.
Their average ranks 22nd in baseball right now. I just want to click to see what their on base is. They're 11th in on base.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the average certainly is way down. You're right. They certainly could get better. They're 21st in slugging, as you would expect. And then I think in the OPS department, they got to be fairly down there. Well, let's see. 17th.
I got top 10 in OPS, but
Do they? Okay.
That's what I've got currently. Team batting average is middle of the pack.
Yeah,
so, I mean, listen, it's a market improvement, right? But I think with this whole, offense in particular, you go, all right, well, who are the guys that are, let's say, overachieving? And then you look at let's say the bottom of the lineup has been way better than I thought. I think, you just continue to ride them out as long as you can. You're getting production out of Tellez, and some nights you're like, wow, all right, that'll help. So, I mean, those are usually the definition of a better and deeper offense is getting a contribution from everybody. Dylan Moore, obviously,
Sure.
and Williamson we've talked about in the past. So I think all of those, and Julio seems to be, starting to swing the bat a little bit.
Let's get into the Rafael Devers situation. That after we spoke last week, that was something that came to a forefront later in the week. They've got the injury to Tristan Casas, who obviously was their first baseman. We've talked about, I think, Casas in the past because he was much rumored to being dealt to Seattle. There was always these rumors of Luis Castillo and him. So he's out. Devers obviously had the situation with Alex Bregman in the offseason. With Bregman coming over, he's going to play third. They tell Devers in spring training, put your glove up. You're going to be our DH. He wasn't happy about that one. He eventually came around. He started off poorly, but then went on tear offensively. And then Casas goes down with the injury. And I'm just telling for people that maybe not aware of the story, because I'm kind of rambling here. They asked him to play first base, and he's refused. He said, no, I'm not playing. Right. Even though his team needs him. How does that sit with you?
Well, it doesn't sit well with me in a couple of different ways. First off, they're paying him over $300 million, and it doesn't come with a guaranteed position, right? The money's guaranteed, but it also doesn't come with guaranteed playing time. Now, the Red Sox need his bat, and I think that this was butchered at the very beginning because, as you mentioned or suggested, not only was he not happy about moving to the DH spot, they really didn't discuss it with him and give him the amount of time and maybe even respect. They should have had a conversation with him and sat down with him in the wintertime and said, hey, just as a heads up, we think one way for us to get better is to bring in Alex Bregman. And if we do, we would like you to DH or play first base and at least get him thinking about it. And so that part, and the answer still might have been, no, I don't want to. I still want to play third base, but at least would have given him some time to think about it. So that's the first thing, and that step or misstep has created this whole snowball effect that's gotten where we are now.
Why do you think that they didn't do that? Why, if they have this flirtation with Bregman, I mean, Bregman is he's clearly a better third baseman than him. Yeah. Once it came to light, why did they not go to Devers and just say, hey, we've got a chance to get Alex Bregman right now. And if we do get Alex Bregman, Devers or Rafael, there's a good chance he's gonna play third base.
Right.
We need you to play DH. We just want to gauge how you feel about that. Why do you think they didn't do that? How did they misread that situation?
I think they have an inexperienced president of baseball operations. Right? Craig Breslow was a former pitcher. He had only had about 3 years of experience, and it wasn't even in the office experience as a Cubs executive. It was work from home. So he really did not learn the proper way of how to manage and how to communicate with people.
But he's a player, though. Like,
you should, right.
Wouldn't he know that?
He should know that in certain cases, it is an issue. Now, if you look around the league, there's a lot of examples of superstar players willing to move positions, and they've done it willingly. Now, we don't know the behind the scenes stuff because it never gets out there. But I mean, Aaron Judge, right, played center field last year. He's a right fielder, but he was willing to play center field. Mookie Betts has played, different positions. Mike Trout to this year now moved to right. So there's a whole host of
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper willingly went to first base. He saw the team needed a first baseman and went, "Hey, I'll go play first base." Like that's the best example, I think.
Yeah.
So you have all these guys around the league. So if you're if you're an executive, I don't want to go down this road too far because we don't know if we're going to get Bregman. So I'll just deal with it if and when we get him. I think that to me is where the inexperience comes in. You have to plan in case that happens, in case you have pushback like you did. And that was mistake number one.
Okay, so what do you do? Okay, and I agree with all of that. But at the core of it, how does he not lose, Devers we're speaking of, he has to lose respect inside that clubhouse, does he not? They're asking him to help the team, which in turn is the players in that clubhouse are asking him, the best situation for you right now is to play first base because it helps us. And he's refusing to do it. I mean, that is like violation of like code number 1, protect the team, do what's best for the team, right? The name on the front, not on the back. He's in clear violation of that.
And it's definitely going to hurt his stead there. And even though he's been there, he's the longest tenured guy, I think, on the team now, and he's the highest paid player. I think that he's definitely lost some gravitas, we'll call it, in the clubhouse for sure. Now, he has never really been a leader in that clubhouse. There are other guys on the team that have kind of stepped into that void over the years, and Bregman has already become more of a team leader than Devers has ever been. And the thing on that is Bregman is probably going to opt out at the end of the year and become a free agent. But now, if you're looking at it from a front office and ownership side, you're about trying to protect this investment of $280 million. This is only year 2 of a 10-year deal or whatever it is. So you're in a heap of trouble. That's why the owner flew out to Kansas City to meet with him after he was very critical of his president of baseball operations guy. So it's a problem that's not going to go away in the short term. Long term, do I expect him to be willing to play first base? I do. This year, I wouldn't put him over there now. Like, if he's not willing to work at it and take ground balls now, I wouldn't trust him over. Like, first base is an important position, right? It's the third most active position on the field. There used to be a day, right? But there used to be a day where, first base is an easy position. Doesn't matter. You just stick some offensive player over there. It's a huge mistake if you do that. And I think Devers, I don't know how he would do over there. I would be very cautious about doing that.
Hey, you and I are coaching young kids. Come on. You're putting the kid over there who can catch the ball at first.
It's like one, besides pitcher and catcher, it's the next most, shortstop and first base. Like, throw the ball across there and catch the ball. If they don't, you're in a heap of trouble.
And sometimes, I'll be honest, at that age, that 11, 12-year age, maybe 13, I might prioritize the first baseman even over the shortstop.
Yeah.
Because, I've seen too many times a young infielder makes a great play, that ball comes whizzing in and just guy, boop, off the glove. I'm like, oh, my God, just can you catch the ball, please? For the love of God.
I feel your pain. Your pain.
Oh, God, you got to remind yourself they're young. They're young kids. All right. Does this help? Bud Black and Derek Shelton out.
Right.
Shelton out in Pittsburgh, and Buddy Black, who, God, he's from here. He's from the state. Grew up, I think, in Longview, Washington. Been a hell of a manager for many, many years, but it just kind of felt necessary that you can't. I mean, the Rockies are just. I mean, that's a bad baseball. They're 7-34. Good thing, bad thing. Where do both those guys end up? You think eventually?
So I think just doing a little most recent last 10 years, guys who get let go by the middle of May. This is a short window, a period of time. Brian Price got fired in Cincinnati, never materialized as another manager. Freddie Gonzalez got let go in Atlanta, never became a manager again. They're like the 4 or 5 that have happened outside of the 2 that just happened. None of them ended up with, Ron Renicky got let go in Milwaukee and he got a 1-year reprieve in Boston, but that was when Alex Cora was suspended and Cora came back after that. So it doesn't bode well for the 2 that are fired that they're going to end up with another managerial job. More than likely, they're done in those positions. Bud Black, who I'm friends with, probably because he wants to, he's been doing it for a long time. Derek Shelton, he was a good hitting coach, but I thought, as a manager, I wasn't sure that was the right fit. So, in the end, though, the one thing about both organizations is, and this kind of goes from conversations we talk about Seattle, your success or failure, a lot of it is driven at the highest level, at the ownership level.
Sure.
And if you want to talk about 2 bad spots ownership wise, Colorado, for different reasons. Colorado, because they're delusional and they think they make all they do is hire from within. They think the guys that they draft are the best players.
Terrible.
Pittsburgh is a different situation. He doesn't give them any kind of financial support, and expects to win. So, I think Pittsburgh in particular is concerning because they have the best pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the sport, and they're ruining it.
They're going to lose him eventually. I mean, he's going to walk. There's no doubt about it.
Paul Skeens will move. He'll be pitching for the, Yankees, Dodgers, any of those the markets are going to pay him.
It's 100%. Speaking of that, man, 2 years ago, they were the belle of the ball. They were the most talked about team in baseball. They probably won every cover of every preseason magazine. The Baltimore Orioles. They're 15-24. They have a negative 65 run differential. What happened to the Orioles?
I think it's second worst run or third worst run differential, right? Third or fourth worst record.
Yeah.
And
how'd this happen?
Yeah, it's happened fast. They've had some poor trades at the deadline and poor self-evaluation. They still have a really, I think, talented team position player wise, but their pitching this year, they had a couple of key injuries right now that are on, and they have a ton of injuries overall right now on the roster, but they don't have enough depth. They haven't developed a pitcher out of their own system under this current regime there with Mike Elias. And that's a huge problem. It's shown itself even at the major league level. They got a big pitching problem issue. So, I'll simplify it in this way. Corbin Burns, free agent, impactful starter, didn't replace him with anybody of significance.
Right.
Anthony Santander, 40 home run guy, key guy in their clubhouse, middle of the lineup bat, didn't replace him with anybody of significance. So when you're down 2 significant guys like that, and then you get off to a bad start, like it highlights how short the roster is.
Yeah, they it sounds like a lot because I hear from just the social media. You see some Oriole fans react. It's just ownership. They didn't spend. They didn't add to that baseball team. It reminds me of the Mariners in a way. Now the Mariners are enjoying this great start to the season, but here's the thing: if it unravels. I'm not saying it's going to, but if it does unravel, that will be the fallback to them. And people saying, listen, you didn't do anything in this offseason to address this team. Now, again, fingers crossed that doesn't happen. Let's go glass half full instead of half empty.
Right.
And hopefully that it won't come to that. But, certainly that's what it feels like when you're dealing with the Orioles.
Yeah. Well, and, the Orioles, the hard part in that is they spent a combined they added about $48 to $50 million to their payroll, right? So, but their payroll has been so low over the last couple of years. It's been one of the lowest. It's been around $100 million. So it went up 48 to 50% from last year, but it's still below the league average because they have a bunch of minimum salary guys and rookies and, guys that aren't even arbitration eligible yet. So, to the point, like the owner did spend, in fairness, he did spend some money, but they spent it on a lot of the wrong guys. They look at all the guys they went out and acquired. They're either hurt or underperforming. That's a terrible mix of, for a front office guy, like keep your head below the desk and hope the owner doesn't see you.
Hey, last thing for you. The one of the better stories so far of 2025 has been the 27-15 start here for AJ Hinch and his Detroit Tigers. Sustainable? Do you think they've done enough on what you've seen so far that this will hold up throughout the summer, you think?
Well, the thing that stands out is their starting staff is equal to or close to what the Mariners march out when they're healthy. Like their staff, that is a legitimate staff, especially with Skubal. But they have Jackson Jobe is really good. Reese Olson is an underrated guy. Jack Flaherty was a nice pickup. They Casey Mize, even though they just put him on the IL,
Right.
He was former number one. And their bullpen, we saw that last year, very, very good with power arms, right? So my biggest question mark with them right now is offense, but they're like, if you look at who has the best offense in terms of runs scored, then the month of May, it's the Detroit Tigers. And, they were like, I asked their manager today, AJ Hinch, hey, you're showing like you're a top 10 offense. Is that legit? He goes, I don't know. And all I can tell you is we're going to keep riding this thing out as long as we can and just trying to produce and keep winning ball games. So I don't think he believes what they're doing right now either, but it's been pretty impressive what they've been doing.
Here's what I know. You're my favorite GM, and you join us every week. Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio. Check out his show, Sirius XM Channel 89. Jim Duquette, GM, there on social media. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We'll talk next week.
All right. Look forward to it. See ya.
There he is, Jim Duquette, with us every single Tuesday, talking baseball, Mariners, and baseball across MLB. Well, it's a Tuesday. That means we get to sit down and visit. Oh, man, this guy does it all. He's got Pac-12 covered. He's got, we got news. We do have breaking news. And how does it affect the Seattle Seahawks? I just saw this come across the ticker. No, I don't actually have a ticker, and many of you probably don't even know what a ticker is because you're young. But there used to be an AP ticker. It would come out. The Portland Trailblazers are up for sale, engaged in a sale. Now, the big news is whether does that include at all your Seattle Seahawks. Joining us from Portland, Oregon, John Canzano from johncanzano.com. Is it cold there or are you bundled up?
Yeah, it's cold.
Jeez.
It's cold.
It's brought to you by Zeke's Pizza, homegrown in the Northwest. Follow him on social media.
Is it hot where you are? Is it hot?
No, but I mean, I've got a T-shirt on. I'm not
it's just a light. I got a T-shirt under. I mean, come on.
I'm
not like in a Russian hat or something.
Can you get a Russian hat, please? John Canzano, BFT on social media. Bald Face Truth is the radio program down there in Portland on 7:50 to the game from 3 to 6. All right, let's lots to cover.
Start with the news.
Yeah, let's start with the news. What do we know? What's going on there with the Trailblazers?
Well, we've long speculated that Paul Allen's wishes were that his NBA and his NFL franchises would be sold and that the proceeds would be used for philanthropy and to fund his passion projects. And there's been a lot of frustration, probably more so in Portland than Seattle, over the Blazers just sort of sitting in limbo. Like, how do you operate when there's not that institutional top-down stuff? So today, the Blazers confirming they are for sale. They have enlisted the help of a company that will help them liquidate the Blazers and sell the Blazers, obviously to the highest bidder. The timing is interesting. Comes the day after the NBA draft lottery. Were they waiting to see if they were going to get Cooper Flag before deciding what to do, or was this in motion weeks ago? Who knows? But the Blazers saying to this point that this only involves the Trailblazers. But I do think it creates the horizon for the Seattle Seahawks as well, who have a provision there where the city of Seattle, I believe, benefits if they're sold before a certain date. So I think the Blazers will go first, and then eventually the Seahawks will change hands. It was his wish, and I'm glad that Jody Allen's doing this. She's had this thing in a stranglehold for too long. Blazers didn't get Cooper Flagg, but maybe they'll get Phil Knight. Who knows?
It's interesting how different the two cities, I think, look at the ownership group. That there's not much outrage up here in Seattle in terms of the Seahawks. She is considered to be engaged with the organization. Yeah, they are very mindful, is the PR department, to always include her in pictures from the NFL draft war room to, signal that she's somehow an active owner. I don't know her. I don't know anything about her other than, what GM John Schneider and then, what the pictures I see to signal that she is, I guess, involved. But that's very different case down in Portland where they can't stand her.
Yeah,
I mean, they can't stand her at all, and they want her to sell. They did release a statement today, and just to read it, I'm just going to read the bottom of it. This news, it says the estate of Paul G. Allen today announced it has commenced a formal sales process for the Blazers NBA franchise. And then at the bottom, it just says, this news does not affect the Seattle Seahawks NFL franchise or the estate's 25% interest in the Seattle Sounders MLS, and neither is for sale. That's what they have said today. You mentioned Phil Knight. Is that the number one target name right now?
Well, the original offer that Phil Knight made, it wasn't just Phil Knight on his own. It was Dodgers minority investor Alan Smolinski, who's a real estate developer, who joined up with Phil Knight. And it's interesting, Puck. These two guys, have homes that are within a walking distance of each other in this really upscale resort in La Quinta, California. So
I'm sure that's nice.
Yeah, nice little. I'm sure a lot of business gets done in that development, right? So you've got Phil Knight out for a walk. You got Smolinski out for a walk, or maybe they're on golf carts and they're having a chat. They team up. They make this lowball offer months and months ago for the Blazers. And I think it was designed to kind of, see if Jody Allen, did she know what she was doing? Like, did she have a plan for this thing? And, I'm not sure if Phil Knight is a reality here. I mean, at his age, he is awfully interested in legacy. It could be a legacy play for him. I think there would be some concern among Blazer fans about the franchise being relocated if it was bought by the wrong ownership group. So Phil Knight may be in that mix in some form or fashion. But I don't expect the NBA owners are going to want to cannibalize their expansion cities, Vegas and Seattle. It's worst kept secret in basketball. But, if Vegas or Seattle are antsy right now, does somebody come in and try to buy the Blazers and make that move?
That's I just clicked, on the comments immediately when the Blazers sent that out. And it was just, that's like the first thing. Well, they're going to move him to Seattle. They're going to move him to Seattle. I think it's dumb. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But you know what? I have to pause and say never on anything, because it's just, you don't know in this day and age. I never thought the Sonics would ever move to Oklahoma City. And I'll say this, I'm wearing a Sonic shirt today, if anyone can see. I will say this, and others don't share this opinion at all. I would never want that team because I live there, work there. I know what that team means to that city. And in good conscience, I can never, ever go, oh, let's just take the Blazers. Yeah, because it's their team. It's Portland's team. It's not our team. I would not feel right about that as a sports fan.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want the curse that comes with that franchise. You're supposed to have the 10th pick. You end up with the 11th pick. You draft a big man. We all know what's going to happen if they draft a 7-footer. Like, there's just a lot of baggage that goes with it if you're a Blazer fan. But the bigger thing is, the NBA owners would have to approve any move. And I have a hard time believing that Adam Silver would want to repeat one of the biggest sins. Probably the biggest sin of David Stern's tenure was having the Sonics be relocated out of Seattle to Oklahoma City. And Silver wants to undo that. I happened to be in Seattle the day Clay Bennett came after the purchase, came to Seattle, and he talked to all of the employees at the arena. I happened to be inside the arena. I think the Blazers were playing the Sonics. They must have been later that night. And I kind of listened to what he had to say, and he was like, oh, it's going to be great. Nothing's changing, all of that. And sure enough, we all knew that the Sonics were on the move. So I think there's a couple things here. Adam Silver wouldn't want to repeat the sins of David Stern if he's learned anything. Secondarily, the NBA owners are greedy. They're not going to want to give up what looks to be like $6 billion in expansion fees. Yeah. To cannibalize two viable markets that are expansion markets. They're not going to want to do that. They're going to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not getting my cut here. And Portland's it's got a great building. They've got a great relationship with the city. The city has bent over backwards to give them a favorable deal, even buying the arena in this last, transaction. So they absorb all the cost of the renovation. And so I think the Blazers have a favorable deal. They've got a viable market. There is a little bit of saturation happening with the WNBA and the possibility of MLB to PDX. But I still think the Blazers have a viable fan base, and there's no owner in the NBA that's going to go, hey, that's just not working. Let's let them move.
If it's, I have two more on this one. We can move on. If it's not Knight, who else has there been anyone else locally rumored?
No, but I mean, naturally, people are going to pivot towards the billionaires who are sitting out there that, may have an interest in picking up a toy. I mean,
so like you.
Yeah, right. Like, there's always been like, I've heard things about Jeff Bezos. I've heard things about Bill Gates or his wife, his ex-wife, being interested in the WNBA. Would they be interested in the NBA? Would the group that bought the WNBA team say, let's bundle this together? It's interesting.
Didn't we talk a while ago, or wasn't there something about Mackenzie Gore wanting to be like the first female owner?
Yes. We talked about it. I put it in print. I don't know how much traction there is to it now. So I'm hesitant to say like, hey, she's a candidate to buy this team, but what a move it would be for the NBA to, take a team like the Trailblazers and be like, hey, look, we're going to have the first majority owner in the NBA that is a woman. And, the other thing that's at play here is that there's just a lot of money out there that, we've seen these other teams, the valuations for the Phoenix Suns and others, that the Boston Celtics sale have driven the prices of these franchises to an astronomical level. So it's a good time to get out. The NBA's TV deal has been baked in. You're picking 11th. The fans are just fed up with the lack of leadership. And to Jody's, in Jody's defense, I don't think she ever really loved the Blazers the way she loved and embraced the Seahawks. The Seahawks are her hometown NFL team. She shows up there. You can tell she loves it. Her friends love it. The Blazers, I think she kind of viewed it always as Paul Allen's, her brother's toy. Oh, that's your little hobby that you picked up. Right. I don't know why you own that team. That's the feel that people in Portland have had about Jody Allen.
One thing that I think is causing some frustration, I can already tell up here in Seattle, or will cause frustration, is that does this feel like, with the announcement of the sale today, is it another moving of the goalposts for the NBA? Is this going to be another thing where they're like, all right, we can't discuss expansion and now until we get the Blazers sale resolved? Because that was the line about the Celtics. Yeah. First it was the TV deal, then it was the labor deal, then it was the TV deal. Then it was, we've got to figure out the sale of the Celtics. And I wonder now if the league is going to do this again. We can't discuss expansion until we figure out who's going to buy the Blazers.
Yeah, and you probably have to wait to the NBA Finals to get Adam Silver to talk on the record about that, where he usually does. He kind of gives the State of the Union during the finals. So I'll be curious to see if there's any kind of news out of that area. But it's been lingering in the background for some time, and it just becomes, I think, a question for the NBA owners. At what point are they ready to move on this? With the TV deal done, with the sale of these franchises done, the Blazers seemingly are last in line. And I do think there is a motivation among the owners to take care of each other before they move forward in expansion. But this is the final piece. You just don't have a precedent for a trustee owning a team or trying to operate a team. It's just been a bad look and a bad feel in Portland.
Do you share, or what do you think about those who feel the NBA has once again rigged the NBA draft lottery? That they went to the Mavericks and they said, hey, LeBron's aging. He's going to be done. The Lakers are a anchor franchise in this league. They always have a superstar. We need you to trade Luka to the Lakers. If you complete said deal, we will give you the #1 overall pick. Do you buy that?
I don't buy it, but I don't blame people for wondering, given that the league has some issues, right? The officiating for years was a charade. The drug enforcement policy, the drug program, it's a charade. The attendance figures are a charade. You can't do those things and then hold a legitimate lottery and expect everybody to go, oh yeah, it's totally on the up and up. Especially when you see the historical trend of players like Victor Wembanyama and LeBron ends up in his hometown city, and Patrick Ewing goes to the Knicks, and you look at just the history of the draft lottery, and the conspiracy theorists will have a field day with it. I don't blame people for wondering, but I want to believe that like this isn't like Ocean's 11, like they're pulling off the biggest heist right out in the middle of, like in plain sight, with everybody skeptical, and we're all watching it happen and nobody can figure out how they did it. Like David Copperfield picked the combination. But people in Portland, Puck, I'll tell you this. It turned out Ben Golliver of the Washington Post reported that the final ping pong ball that was like a 7, if the number had been a 6 instead of a 7, Cooper Flagg goes to Portland. And so it's like, you know, you're that close. No, you're not. But the two franchises that needed him the most, you know, the Utah Jazz had the greatest probability. They can't get a free agent to come to Salt Lake City. Portland can't get a free agent. Those two franchises never seem to catch a break where they need it, like in the draft lottery.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it for those who subscribe to that conspiracy theory, yesterday it just added more fuel to it. I mean, you just dumped gallons of gasoline on top of that. And
Nico Harrison, the GM in Dallas, who's like, they're ready to run him out of town. Suddenly now the heat's off. He goes free. He's, you know, he looks like, all right, everything worked out. He's karma now. But, you know, there are things that happen in sports. Like, you know, you saw the Washington baseball team playing that game. They're playing against a NAIA team, and the lights go out in the 6th inning, and the game's suspended. Mm-hmm. And you go, it's not that far-fetched to believe, like, somebody maybe wandered down and turned the lights off.
Well,
not that far-fetched.
There are WSU fans that have started a GoFundMe page.
But it may not, like, maybe it just happened. But I don't blame people for wondering. I also don't blame people for wondering about the draft lottery because the ammo's there.
Yeah. Well, I 100% believe Pat Chun waddled his ass down there and turned the lights off. I guarantee it.
Well, like it reminded me of Bull Durham when he said we need a rain out, you know, and they went to the field and they put the sprinklers on. They got a rain out.
You asked me, I think this was last week. You somehow asked Softy, and Softy's a putz, but it was good. You wrote this story. It was the 5 most important figures. And you did Oregon, you did Oregon State, you did UW, WSU, Boise State, and Utah. And then I think you also did the Blazers, correct?
Yeah.
I found it very interesting. And we can start with Washington State. And I was thinking about it for a long time. And I think I came up with a pretty good list. I do have regret of keeping, because you asked, well, who's some regrets that you left off? And so it was no particular order, or I can't remember if you made me put it in order, but I went with Jack Thompson.
Yeah.
I just think that he was the first superstar quarterback there. He was has carried the flag for that school, and he is instrumental. I mean, he's the godfather of that program.
Yeah.
And all those quarterbacks come back, and he's the one who brings them all together. They all have their issues and egos, but he's the one, I think, that links them all. And then I think Drew Bledsoe, because Drew Bledsoe he's a number 1 overall pick. He's gorgeous. He's got a powerful right arm. He's selling hock and wine. I think he's the most probably recognizable player that school's ever seen. Elson Floyd, just because I think what Elson Floyd did for that football program, because he recognized that he's probably the first and only president there that recognized, hey, if you have a good football team, like, people come to your school, like they'll arrive. And he was instrumental in getting facilities built, the stadium upgrades, and then, hiring Mike Leach. And then next on that list was Mike Leach. And I just think, he gave that program in a time that it needed. I mean, coming off Paul Wolf, it was dead. That program was dead, and he revitalized it. And the last one was Bob Robertson, because Bob Robertson is, long time before he passed, long time radio voice of Cougar football, and he just, be a good sport, always was always his signature catchphrase that he'd end every broadcast. And I don't know, so many people grew up, listening to him. That was mine. I regret I left Mike Price off. God, that was a tough one. Ryan Leaf, the one I had the hardest time, but I'm just trying to think of their time on the field.
Yeah.
Because I would have put him on it post playing was Steve Gleason, but that was the list.
You took some heat for that because a lot of Washington State fans put Price in front of Leach. And I think it's a good debate because of what Price did at the time that he did versus what Leach did. I would argue they're both important figures. I talked to Jack Thompson yesterday. He's still involved, right? Like, so you have to you look at the span of his contribution. It's a guy who, probably could have ended up at Washington. Instead, he goes to Washington State. They blew his recruitment. He never forgave him for it. And he stuck it to him, and he becomes the number 3 pick in the draft, NFL draft in 1979. And then he comes back, and people may forget, like, there was, remember when the Polynesian players were suing the school? There was all that uproar, and he is the one who came in and mitigated that. Mike Leach called him in and said, "Can you meet with the players, and how do we fix this?" And, he got an apology for, that meant something to the Polynesian players who stayed at Washington State.
Yeah. On your Oregon State list, I don't know how TJ Hushmanzada doesn't make it.
I know. But you got Chad Johnson, you've got Erickson and Riley. You have to have Dennis Erickson and Mike Riley, either one or two.
Yeah.
There are historical figures like the great Pumpkin DeAndros, but he didn't win enough, even though they had the giant killers. I just think there weren't a lot of winners at Oregon State coaching wise when you look at their history. And so Mike Riley and Dennis Erickson jump out. And I put Bob DeCarolis, the former AD, on that list because of the fact that he was the one, kind of like to your point about the Washington State AD, saw the value of football, knew he had a winner in Dennis Erickson and then Mike Riley, and said, we need to invest. And he just started shoveling coal. And I can remember a donor telling me, like a university employee telling me, that during the Dennis Erickson season where they go to the Fiesta Bowl, a helicopter landed on the football field, and it was a donor showing up to give Oregon State a check. Like, they had never had that happen. And so, like, when you have money dropping out of the sky, you got to give credit to the AD and the coach who were engineering that.
The Oregon list was Marcus Mariota, Mike Bellotti, Rich Brooks, Chip Kelly, and Phil Knight. It really just should be Phil Knight, Phil Knight, Phil Knight, Phil Knight, Phil Knight. But what was the feedback from Duck fans? And I understand Mariota because he won the Heisman instead of maybe Joey Harrington.
I think, Joey was a product of Phil Knight, right? And Nike and the billboard in New York City. Joey was a good player. Joey, was this close to going to Stanford, right? And he would have been a good player anywhere he went. But Marcus Mariota is the only Heisman Trophy winner in program history. He played in that era of Chip Kelly that elevated the program to another stratosphere. I think the Joey Harrington versus Marcus Mariota debate is the same as like maybe saying Mike Bellotti against Chip Kelly or Rich Brooks against Chip Kelly. One of those guys was foundational. One of them really just put, kerosene on it, and man, did it go. And so, yes, you could put Phil Knight all 5. Without Phil Knight, Oregon's not Oregon. But for me, it was Phil Knight and then Chip Kelly. And then you start to talk about Mike Bellotti, Marcus Mariota, Rich Brooks. Certainly there are guys like Ahmad Rashad and Dan Fouts who are on that list. And Joey, I would include him as well. But I think if we're doing a top 5 most important, I think that it's those 5.
Softy went with you contacted the hey pal, did he respond by, hey pal, let me tell you what I got for 5 guys.
He wanted to know, first of all, if his name had to be on it. And then when I said yes, then he took it, I think, a little more seriously because he knew he was going to catch some grief. He was interesting because he came back to me with a knee-jerk 5.
Yeah.
Then a couple hours later, he said, "Can I amend that?" And then later that night, he said, "Can I amend it again?" And so you get an idea of his workflow and how he thinks. Like he was considering it and reconsidering it, which I like.
The fact that he didn't have Hugh McElhaney even on his leftover list, putts. I think he's got Don. He put Don James.
Yeah.
He put Steve Entman, Warren Moon, Chris Peterson. I do find it interesting the Jim Owens because do you know the Jim Owens story? The background with the African American players.
Yeah. I know that part. Yeah.
I'm just curious about that one on the list. Now, listen, there's no argument what his record was as a coach. He was highly successful, but that did not end good for that school.
Well,
and there's some hard feelings. A lot of ex-players when it comes to Jim Owens. I mean, there's been talk of taking down his I think he has a statue. Talk of taking it down.
Jack Thompson, the throwing Samoan, yesterday told me Owens was the coach who scheduled a recruiting visit with him and then canceled it twice in the 11th hour. And for Jack, that was disrespectful because his father was coming with him. His father was coming, and twice his father had to change his work plans and his schedule to go on this recruiting visit to Washington. And then twice Owens canceled on him. And then Jack got in the room with Owens and basically said, hey, I think it was really disrespectful that you rescheduled twice, not for me, but for my father. And instead of going, hey, we're really sorry, we're trying to recruit, whatever, basically Owens told him to get out of his office. And so I think, if you are a Washington fan, you got to kind of think like he treated a player like Jack Thompson that way. How was he treating, some other guys?
Yeah. I think I think influential people in that program's history. Yeah. Hugh McElhaney's got to be on that list.
Yeah.
He has to be. And
that's the best part about these lists is that they're
great.
Yeah, it's like, what era were you paying attention to?
Sure.
What do you value? If you're an Oregon fan or a Washington fan, what, is it the 90s for Washington? Is it, the 2010s for Oregon? Like, it really matters what your perspective is.
Yeah, it's very interesting. For the Blazers, you had it was Harry Glickman, Bill Walton, Clyde Drexler, Dr. Jam Ramsey, and Bill Schonley, the Schnoz. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great. That's a good list. What do we got? What do we have any update at all on any media related deals? Well, we discussed that what they're gonna have on 25. Anything on 26? What do we know about expansion at all?
Yeah, look, I think the Pac-12 has got the mediation now scheduled for May 19th. Okay, so circle that on your calendar. Mountain West, Pac-12 are going to talk that day. They're going to, if they have a good session on the 19th, they will schedule more. If they don't, then it could get ugly after that. I had one source tell me that, hey, it could get ugly. This could go to trial. Nobody wants to go to trial, but it could go to trial. So, but the threat here is twofold. The leverage that the Mountain West has is they know that they're holding the Pac-12 up a little bit. Pac-12 really can't announce their media deal until they figure out if their mediation is done, because they lose some leverage if they do that. They can't move forward with expansion because they don't know how much money's changing hands. So the Pac-12 is a little bit in limbo, and you want to really be able to move forward by July 1 of this year, like this summer. July 1, they have to know, because that gives you a year to onboard new schools. So the Pac-12 may have an idea of what they want to do, but they can't officially do it until they work through mediation or a settlement with the Mountain West. For the Mountain West, it really is about their viability and their financial outlook, because they have $61 million, that first burst of payments they're supposed to make to UNLV, Air Force, and their existing members. That has to take place on July 1 of 2026. So that's the same date that the Pac-12 has to have 8 full-time members. But the issue, I'm told from lawyers who deal with these kinds of settlements, is it takes more than a year to get like a trial and get paid. And so the Mountain West cannot afford to go to trial, Puck. If this goes to a trial, I don't think that the Mountain West has the money to keep UNLV and Air Force and everybody in the fold. I think they will default on that payment. Okay. And the Pac-12 knows that. And so I do wonder if there's been some dragging of the feet, especially on the Pac-12's end, because they can always just go and say, look, we'll just take Texas State for now just to be compliant. We'll announce our media deal. But I think ultimately there's a faction. I'm told there's a faction of Pac-12 schools, New World Pac-12 schools, that want UNLV. They want them in the fold. Yeah. There's another faction that wants to get into Texas. So I think those are the two most viable full-time member additions, Texas State, UNLV. I also think there's a chance if it's Texas State, it could be UTSA as a travel partner, but I'm not wild about that. And then for Memphis and Tulane and fans of those two schools, I'm hearing more and more resistance to Memphis and Tulane for an all sports membership from both sides, not just the Pac-12 side. They don't want to send their athletes out to the Mississippi to go play games. But I'm hearing that resistance also from sources at Memphis and Tulane who are going, I don't know if it makes sense for our athletes to go west either. So I think they're being rational. And I think, what I kind of see on the table potentially here is the addition of UNLV to get to 8. And then do you add Memphis and Tulane for football only, or football and basketball? Now you're playing 9 or 10 school conference schedule for basketball, 10 for football. Maybe it's 9. And then potentially now, do you go after Texas State to get into Texas? You do that as a luxury, but I think that's where they're at right now. But I think May 19th becomes awful important. You know, people in the Pac-12 are saying don't oversell the idea that something's going to happen on May 20th.
Right.
But the idea here is that this settlement piece needs to get fixed. They're not just trying to settle the poaching penalty antitrust suit. They're also trying to settle the exit fees of the Mountain West schools that are leaving. So it could go into the night on May 19th. It could be a couple of days, but I think we're seeing that, you know, the ultimate drop dead for the Pac-12 is kind of like July 1 of this summer. They got to have their ducks in a row.
What is there anything new on St. Mary's about joining the conference basketball only?
I'm just being told, you know, from sources at St. Mary's that they continue to be told by the Pac-12 that once the football thing is done,
okay,
Pac-12 will consider basketball. I still think St. Mary's is out there, but you know, if you're dreaming here, like you want to have the fifth best conference in football, and you want to have a conference that arguably could be the number 4 conference in basketball, because how good they are. But if you're just pipe dream here, if you're the Pac-12, UNLV makes sense. You get UNLV into the fold. It's a geographic win. Then you go Memphis, Tulane. Maybe you add St. Mary's. That's a hell of a basketball conference. And it's a football conference that has a gap between, you know, the Pac-12 and the next group of 5 conference or group of 6 conference is akin to the gap between like the SEC and the ACC or the SEC and the Big 12. It is huge. It sort of ensures that your conference champion is getting that automatic berth to the playoff.
Last thing for you, they'll cut you loose. You just posted it about an hour ago, and I want you to I've skimmed it, but I want you to give me the details. We have another incident involving youth coaches getting out of hand. It appears to be at a 10 or an 11U. I think an 11U fast pitch game
just what I want to be covering. It's exactly what I want to be writing about and covering, but
what happened?
The adults here will not allow me to focus on what I need to focus on, because if we can't regulate ourselves, people, if the coaches can't coach in a rational, grounded manner, and the adults in the crowd can't stop punching each other at youth sports events, we can't move on. We can't go to step 2. So here's the issue. It's an 11 under tournament. It's taking place in Newburgh, Oregon. You've got a team from St. Helens. You got a team from Astoria. Team from Astoria happens to have a young lady on the roster who's tall, and she's 5'10" and she's 11 years old. She plays volleyball. I looked on Facebook, quick check. Everybody in her family's tallish. You know, mom and dad are both tall. So this is a tall kid who steps up to the plate, and I'm sure people in the crowd are doing what they do at youth sports events, going, how old is that girl? You know, and by the way, she's 11. Like, I'm sure she hears it in her day as she walks around, and people go, do you play basketball? Do you play volleyball?
And girls in particular, you know this, having raised girls in particular, very, what's the right word? Sensitive when it comes to height. It just, it's not, because it's always, you're gawking at them. And they're
girls in general are nitpicked. We nitpick girls, and there's, you know, the studies will say that girls at about age 9 or 10 start to have anxiety. They start to have self-image issues. They, you know, that's not coming from within them. If they were isolated in some, you know, remote part of the world, that's coming from us. It's outside in pressure that they're getting. But she gets to the plate. She hits a one hopper towards the shortstop, who's playing kind of shallow, you know, but, you know, she's kind of in the base path. She hits a one hopper, hits the kid in the shin. Obviously, you know, the 10 or 11-year-old shortstop is hurt. The kid gets to first base. Coach for the St. Helens team, who was on defense, comes roaring out of the dugout, yelling, time, time, time. I posted the video at johncanzano.com if you want to see it. But he then demands to see her birth certificate. He said, there's no way that a 10-year-old, he says, could hit a ball that hard. And somebody in the crowd goes, you're right, she's 11. She's not 10. But he goes on and on. There happens to be a high school girl who is umpiring. She's behind the plate, doing the best she can in Newburgh. You've got coach yelling. You've got a middle finger that comes out from the coach. You've got the game continues. Players at the end of the game refuse to shake hands with, you know, the tall girl from Astoria. Parents are taking pictures of her because they want to be like, that's the girl. How tall is this girl? Let's go to social media. Like, it's just another reminder of how unhinged and the loss of civility that we have, and coaches losing their way. Look, public service coach, you may feel like you are the most important person in that stadium. You may feel like you have all this authority because, you've sent a kid off to get a scholarship here, or, you created a lot of all-star players, and you might even be in a full uniform if you're a youth baseball coach. But I'm here to tell you, you're more like a social worker. None of us mistake you for being a manager of a professional team. I don't care about what injury you suffered that caused you to not get the full ride D1 scholarship. I nod and we may humor you, but none of us parents are looking to you as like this expert that's going to get your kid to the next level. So just, if you have anything to say about an opposing player during a game, it should be limited to, hey, nice job. Way to hit the ball.
100%.
Back up your shortstop 2 steps if you think the hitter's too big and you think the ball's going to come off hot. Like, just be a reasonable, rational person, and flipping off parents. And the coaches have been suspended. I'm glad for that. But I'm just like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I agree with you. It's the advice that you wrote at the end of the column that you got, speaking of Bob DeCarolis, right?
Yeah.
The who was the AD at Oregon State. And you were asking about it. You were coaching soccer, and you're like, oh, what should I do? And what conditioning drills and all this stuff. And he, as you wrote, he just nodded and listened, and then he offered you the advice and just said, your job is to make them want to come back the next day.
That's it.
It's so true. It just have fun. How do you make, everybody wants to win, but how do you make it fun for them at that age to want to continue to play? Because if they don't have a good experience, then they don't want to come back and play anymore.
That game was not fun for anybody.
No.
And the 11-year-old, that poor kid, she ended up in tears. Her mom said she cried after the game. She was crying in the dugout,
Of course.
Why? Because she's tall. I mean, she's supposed to carry her birth certificate with her. And we all know, like, the coach who's making that accusation, if she produces a birth certificate, he's going to be like, it's a fake,
Sure.
We're in a time where I think politically, from a business standpoint, from professional sports, I go back like Enron, Bonds with the cream and the clear, Lance Armstrong. There was this deterioration of civility and rule following in our society that is a really interesting study. And it's just become fashionable to, forget the facts, just yell louder than the next person and everyone will believe you.
Listen, this is a political free show. This is a direct result of 2 things. It's social media and the political climate we've been in the last 8 years. That's the result of this lack of treating people with respect. Yeah. That's what it is. It is given this green light to act like absolute jackasses to everyone. It just, that's it. Top to, you learn it from the top and it trickles down to the bottom. That's just the reality. Yeah. And there is zero debate on that. It just is.
I'm like you. I don't like to bring the politics into it because I think that it just clouds the issue. But I do think it's interesting to kind of study it. And I don't care who's yelling on which side. Like, it's just people yelling at each other. It's just, there's a loss of civility. And it goes from, we used to whisper about it, right? We used to go, hey, is that kid, is that kid too old to be playing?
I did it the other day, but it was in a joking manner because I knew the kid. Yeah. But he's a 12-year-old that pitched against. He's enormous, John, and he throws 68 miles an hour. Now I want you played baseball.
Yeah.
What do you think 68 miles an hour is at 46 feet? I don't know. Mid-90s?
It's 6 miles an hour for every
you think about it,
you're away. So that's like 115.
And I know what it's, and I know that he's 12, but I joke about it, but I would,
But the thing is, we used to, like, I might turn to you at the game if we see this kid at the plate. I might go, wow, she's really tall. Yeah. I wonder how old she is. Yeah. Now we've gone from that to the coach bursting out of the dugout demanding a birth certificate. Like, the leap there is the loss of civility. I think it's okay for people to go, gosh, Barry Bonds, he's looking like he's hitting home runs. He looks like he's a linebacker in the NFL, but not at a youth sports game. Come on. What are we doing?
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for everything that you do.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Great
you.
stuff every single week. And we'll look forward to next week's chat as always.
Thanks, Puck.
Say about there he is, John Canzano, johncanzano.com. Go read all of his work. He's got, his mailbag is up. The 5 most important figures, something myself, Softy, we contributed to last week, talking about, he did it for Oregon State, Washington, Boise State, Utah, and also the Portland Trail Blazers. And then a story, softball incident, youth sports in Newberg, Oregon, involving an 11U softball team. He covers it all. That is for sure. All right, before we get to Hey, What the Puck, I want to give you a few minutes, if we can, a little 10 minutes of this week's Sports Pit with myself, Steve Sandmeyer, Matt Stretch Johnson. New episodes come out every Monday. Now, the full hour and 7 minutes available for Puck's Posse members. Hey, how can I be a Puck's Posse member? Oh, never thought you'd ask. If you are watching the stream right now, the QR code will take you there. Just take a snap a picture of it. Also, you can just go to pucksports.com. That's right. There's no NHL there, so don't worry. You're not going to get any hockey talk. Pucksports.com will take you there. Sign up to become a member. By joining, you are, in essence, supporting everything that we do here, all the free stuff we do. In addition to that, I've always said I want to give those people that sign up something extra. So, like the Sports Pit is extra. Our MLB Insider every week with Ryan Divish is extra. And then starting on Thursday, our regular thing with Mitchie the Kid, Mitch Levy, that will be behind a paywall. That will be for Puck's Posse members there as well. So this week's episode, if you are a fan of old, like 2004 and beyond, 2004 to 2008, 2009, KJR Sports Radio. It was a real blast from the past. We spent a lot of the show this week talking about kind of the KJR past and just the massive egos that worked there and all the funny characters and personalities that were there. Here's a little snippet of this week's Sports Pit.
Okay. So Eaton strangles Softy, and 2 minutes later, Softy's like, "Hey, Chad, so what do you think of Daryl Tapp?"
Well, yeah. No, during the break, can't you hear Softy? He says during the break, "Hey, can you stay for one more segment?" Just like that. And that's not even a shot. That's just Softy being oh, man. Talk about a guy that's mellowed out. But, hey, can you stay for one more? How about one more?
I just love the dignity. Like, he'd get a dignitary on, right?
One more
be like,
segment.
"All right, it's British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Maggie, how you doing, babe?" It would... it'd be like...
He had the mayor on. He had the mayor on. To your point, he had the mayor on. He's like, "What's up, man? Thanks for jumping on."
God.
And the mayor...
President Barack Obama, how's it going, pal?
God bless him. Yep.
Well, he doesn't change.
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
All right.
Good shit.
Mahatma Gandhi, what's up?
You're still not eating, bud?
Is it hot over there? God, it's gotta be hot over there.
Why are you so skinny, man? Why don't you put on a few LBs?
Eat a steak.
286-9595-1-800-829-0950. 950 on the cell.
You can only
Who's
have
got a
one.
call for a Gandhi?
If you wanted to stab any member of the Sonics, who would it be? All right, let's go to Ed in Tacoma.
Softy, love the show. Listen every day.
Thanks, pal.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. Wow, that's
All
really
right,
funny.
Steve's got to go pick up his daughter. We got to let him go.
No, not yet.
I got some
He's
time.
still got time.
Yeah,
Come
I got-
on,
I
we're
got
just
some
hitting
time.
our stride, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
We've
just hitting our
alienated.
stride.
We've alienated everyone. Nobody knows who John Fuhrer is, and some people know Schmitty, and nobody knows about Strauss and all this.
No, half this segment. Yeah, half this segment.
We did a giant inner circle kind of secret society thing, and I think we alienated a lot of people.
Yeah,
What
all
about,
because you're cheating on us every Thursday with Mitch, and that's going to push us out. So
I
it's
don't
fine.
care.
It's fine.
Go on as many of those things you want. You think I'd give a damn about this podcast?
I think
Jesus.
next one we're all going to be on it. Bring him on. You guys
it's
do
just,
it.
we over talk over. I'll pass. You guys do it. We over talk each other all the time.
I'll do it.
I'd love to hear. I think he'd love to talk to both of you.
Oh, that's
how
hot.
about this?
That's
Well,
so
we don't
nice.
need you.
Okay,
I
I'm
mean,
in. Yeah.
You don't need to.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, why don't we just?
We'll get rid of Jason.
Yeah, I'll go
we'll
on
get
his
rid of
podcast.
Jason, and then we'll put him on your platform. Yeah, perfect.
We don't need
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, anyways, Jason.
Yeah.
Yep.
When the hell were you ever on our show? I thought it was me stretching Mitch.
Yeah, that's right.
But, there was no Puck in there. I don't remember Puck in the morning.
Nobody was in nothing.
No, and you're not that funny, so that's fine.
Not the funny.
No, it's good. That's funny shit.
I think he'd love to talk to you both of you together.
Yeah. Well,
you know what? You are this kind of like bringer together guy. Yeah. I mean, you did the Graz with Gas thing. You did me and Stretch. You got. I mean,
who do we bring together next?
What kind of racket are you running? I mean, and how the hell did you convince all the people to do it? I mean, mine was easy.
Great point, Sandy. Great point.
The guy brings his wife over and befriends my wife, and then I'm done, right? Like I'm whatever. Here I am.
And to Mitch's point, I'll do anything. But Graz and Gas.
How did you get Mitch? How did you get Mitch to do it? How do you get Graz with? What is your deal here? Are you like? Do you have pictures of people? Like, what's going on?
Michael Knight and Vinny are next.
God, apparently
they're coming up. I think they're still doing a show. They're doing.
They are. Yes,
on Facebook, right? They're doing a show on Facebook.
Yes. I'd stay away from that, to be honest with you.
There's a story, and I bet you Levy can tell.
Let me just tell you something. Jim Moore. When Jim and I were on the radio working together, his favorite thing, because it was New York Vinny and Michael Knight do a show like this kind of, but it's a Facebook stream, and they do it for like 30 minutes, and it starts at 10. So Jim, he'd always be late coming in, but the first thing he would do, he'd set up his iPad. He would ignore me for the first 20 minutes because he was watching. He was and had the volume up. You could hear it sometimes on these microphones, and he was watching Michael Knight and New York Vinny doing the show, and you have to watch it. The imagery of it is really the best.
I've seen it once. I've seen it once.
He loved that show. He loved it.
I think Levy could confirm, maybe deny this, but there was a rumor, or at least a story, or an urban legend. I sound like the old movie guy. In a world, that Vinny, with all of his efforts for the stadium initiative, and all of the rallies, radio station is a news station. You're there at like midnight or whatever else. And they were asking Vinny when he went to go vote. And apparently Vinny had forgotten to vote himself. And he's like, what do you mean it's closed? The polls are Vinny, it's closed. You can't so that I need confirmation from someone, and that might be myth, it might be true, but that's the story I heard, is that New York Vinny, after doing all of that, and as much as he did for the local sports community at that time, himself had forgotten to vote.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right, doesn't it? That's kind of on par.
Yeah, and that was one of the nicest human beings you'd ever meet. I mean, talk about. The sweetest human. He's how I got my break and I interned for him, basically because my cousin knew him and said, "Hey, you've got a new intern." You have a new intern. His name's Matt. Okay, tell him to come down at 6:30. I mean, like, he was the sweetest man, and that's one of the other part. The radio, you couldn't have that nice a guy in radio.
He had quite a few takes though. Oh my God. Yeah, oh God. I mean, I'm just going to, this is a take that he had because I heard him say this over radio airwaves. You guys sure you should have two guys wrestling on the mats together because there's a lot of diseases going around.
Yes. That is confirmed. Absolutely. I'll tell you one thing, Fruit Boy. They shouldn't be wrestling like that because there's so many diseases. You don't think those wrestlers are going to get sick? But anyways, it's not like Mitch ever made an attempt outside that door. Right at 9:56, he was either golfing or go to his office or leave the building. So he was insulated. So there was no wrong foot. It was 20 years of wrong feet. It was unfreaking believable how he would just, why I remember one. Why are you picking fights? Why are you picking fights with da 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 da? Or however I said it. I'm sure it was more bashful than that.
No,
and he was
I gotta listen. I need to defend Mitch a little bit here because he believed in what we all believe in, which is funny, no matter whose expense it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if it's funny, it's funny.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how I do it in my household. Like I get made fun of kids, Jenny. Like if it's funny, it's gonna at your expense, tough turds. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah.
So I do think that there might have been, some material surrounding gas that was worth, getting a few yucks over. Okay.
Oh
there.
God, some material. It just was constant.
Yeah,
it was constant. And if it wasn't his name, it was the afternoon host or whatever, because he knew he could poke it and he knew he'd get a reaction and people would just, to your point.
Once he got it in, he knew that it would affect someone, it was just nonstop.
There were meetings in Rich Moore's office over this stuff, multiple meetings. It was a big to-do. When egos clash, it's a wonderful show to watch. God, it's great. And again,
massive egos in that building, though.
I'm the worst offender because I used to just sit there and stir the pot, and then I'd watch it go, and it was fabulous.
But you think about it. You think of Mitch. You think of Gas, Gras. Gras, ego, Softy, Locke.
Graz was the one that acted like it was Teflon, though. He wouldn't give a shit. He just cared about his contract, and that's not a shot. He wouldn't give a shit. So if you're not going to get a reaction, like anything, a kid, an adult, your golf partner, if you're not going to get a reaction, it's no fun. But once you get that reaction, especially early on, playing the wrong promo, all it took was playing the wrong promo. Holy Christ. And all of a sudden, it was a blow up. And it was not constant fodder when I was there, but it was often. It was often. And then the producer, I pretended that I was interested and I didn't give a damn because, again, I'm just sink or swim. But that's when I could really pull out and just say, yeah, you're going to have to talk to someone higher up that is not wearing dirty sweats. You're going to have to talk to somebody else. Because I don't give a damn. You don't, either way.
There it is again, the little 10-minute snippet of the Sports Pit that we air comes out every single Monday with myself, Matt Stretch Johnson, former KJR talent producer extraordinaire, and Stephen Ernest Sandmeyer, longtime contributor. Went to Softy's show, also to the morning show. New episodes of the Sports Pit. They come out every Monday exclusively for Puck's Posse members. And that's just 10 minutes of an hour and 7-minute show of just talking about funny stories from KJR past, names that you would remember, the Molly Ringwald committee from Somerville, Mass story, just a lot of behind-the-scenes look at the past years that we spent there at KJR, and just kind of turned that. And we had, we go in every show. I have no idea where it's going to go, but it started off with Sandy responding to Mitch, giving him shit when Mitch was on with me last week about having the microphone so far from his mouth, and then just went from there, and we just kind of took off from there. So again, if you want to sign up, be a Puck's Posse member, $5 a month. You can sign up for as little. Well, you get a discount if you sign up for a year. By the way, you'll get the full episode of that, and then again everything else that comes with it. Ryan Devers, and just another reminder: Mitchie the Kid this Thursday joins me live on the live show, and then once that show is over, that will be uploaded for audio and video, but just for Puck's Posse members. And although if you are a Mitch Unfiltered member, you can join his Patreon page, Mitchie the Kid. All right. Before we get, hey, what the puck, and get on out of here, let's give you the latest as we preview the upcoming PGA Championship. And, of course, our PGA Championship coverage and Puck the Picker Majors Pool is brought to you by the one and only Synthetic Turf Northwest. Puck the Picker Majors Pool is back, brought to you by syntheticturfnorthwest.com. Tired of that muddy backyard? Look at this beautiful backyard. Look how pretty it looks with that 3-hole putting green. Tired of the cost of watering your lawn? Synthetic Turf Northwest is pet friendly. They do synthetic lawn installation, custom turf installation, and with golf here, give you a golf green installation as well. Sign up today, syntheticturfnorthwest.com. That's right. Big thanks to Synthetic Turf Northwest and syntheticturfnorthwest.com, proud sponsors of the Puck the Picker Majors Pool. You still have time to sign up for the PGA Championship, which gets underway this Thursday at Quail Hollow. By the way, if you still can use Rory McIlroy, use Rory McIlroy. He dominates at Quail Hollow. Absolutely dominates. Now, this is the season-long Puck the Picker Majors Pool. If you were involved in the Masters, you're already way ahead. Now, for those who did not participate in the Masters, you can still sign up right now. All you got to do is go to go to pucksports.com. And the top of the webpage will take you to Puck the Picker Majors Pool. This is the site right here. As you see there, Puck the Picker Majors Pool. It's our season-long golf contest brought to you again by Synthetic Turf Northwest. PGA Championship getting away Thursday. You pick 2 golfers for every major. So in the Masters, the 2 golfers you use for that no longer can use them for any other major. This is a season-long tournament that's going on, or competition that's going on. If you did not participate in the Masters, you can use Rory. Use Scotty Scheffler. First place prize, again, for Puck the Picker Majors Pool, once again brought to you by Synthetic Turf Northwest. A stay-and-play package at Gamble Sands for 2 people. There's a foursome. Second place, a foursome at Fairwood Golf and Country Club. Third place, a foursome at Mill Creek Country Club. And fourth place is a foursome at one of Troon's Seattle Premier golf courses, West Seattle, Jackson, or Bill Wright. Again, Bill Wright, formerly Jefferson, plus a 1-hour top tracer range session at one of those courses as well. Again, to log in, if you are not signed up, go to pucksports.com, click on the link, Puck the Picker Majors Pool, and it will take you there. And again, one more time, big thanks to the one and only Synthetic Turf Northwest for being the proud sponsor of Puck the Picker Majors Pool. Again, muddy backyard, cost of watering your lawn. Synthetic Turf Northwest is pet friendly. My dogs love it. They spend all day out there. When we had grass, they did not go out there. One, because it was dirty and muddy with our backyard, and they don't like it. They're very particular dogs. They love the synthetic turf lawn, and it's just so easy to maintain. And you can you can do all kinds of custom installations, by the way. Hell, if I had a bigger backyard, what I would do with the Synthetic Turf Northwest, if we ever buy a bigger house, I'm probably never going to do that. I would put in a wiffle ball field, and I'd have it be Synthetic Turf Northwest. And they'll do that. I've seen it. They've done it. They've done customized like wiffle ball fields. Sensational. God, I want to do that. But Synthetic Turf Northwest, we have a 3-hole putting green. You can add a putting green. It's got different undulation on the green. It's not all just flat. So every 3 holes are different. It's wonderful. Best decision we ever made. Synthetic Turf Northwest. They'll do it all for you. Please go visit the website. Tell them Puck sent you, syntheticturfnorthwest.com. Also, they'll bring you Travis Fulton. Travis will join us tomorrow. Travis Fulton, former golf instructor and golf analyst at the Golf Channel, now host of the Stripe Show podcast and golf instructor, by the way, at Travis Fulton Golf Studio. You can visit his website at travisfultongolf.com. Check out his YouTube show, Travis Fulton Golf. He'll join us tomorrow to preview the PGA Championship. Once again, all brought to you by Synthetic Turf Northwest. And again, the website, syntheticturfnorthwest.com. Look at that prize package, huh? Do you notice on that prize package, you know, what's the one thing that stands out to you? There's nothing that says a sleeve of golf balls. That's $1 billion company that's giving away a sleeve of golf balls for second place. This is a mom and pop startup. Look at that prize package. Jesus. All right, here we go. Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them that call when that happens. 206-817-8917. Visit them online. Restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Hey, there's been some angst that's been going on that I've noticed here recently from you Los Marineros fans. Already the concern of Ben Williamson. The last 14 games, Ben Williamson's slash line's 182, 227, 409. Guys, he was going to go through a rough patch. He's a rookie who has been rushed through the minors to come up to the majors. He wasn't going to hit all year. So this doomsday crowd that's starting to develop online, just pump the brakes a little bit. Because you know how much the narrative on his struggles recently changes if he's not robbed of a home run on Friday night that he poked to center field? So there's a lot, and I mean a lot to like about Ben Williamson. That glove plays anywhere, in any era, at any time. And he's got great at-bats. He is at times more of a professional hitter than a lot of guys. I'm not concerned. I don't think anybody should, at this point right now, should be concerned at all about Ben Williamson. Every player, not even just rookies, go through a period of time where they don't look good. And he's going through that right now. And he's going to go through it more than anyone because he's a rookie. Don't push hey, what the puck? Don't push the panic button yet on Ben Williamson. Give it some time and acknowledge that when he came up and he was right out of the gate on fire, it was not going to last. It just wasn't going to last. So I think he's going to be okay. All right. That's Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Again, your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Make them your first call, please. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. North Seattle franchise. Thank you for everyone watching and listening today. And, of course, thank you to all the sponsors, Lindback Lumber, Zeke's Pizza, Georgetown Brewery, and, of course, Restoration One. Find today's Daily Puck Drop up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel, like it, leave a comment. You can also find the Daily Puck Drop and all of our content on your favorite podcast platforms. And, of course, always at pucksports.com. When you're at pucksports.com, again, sign up to become a member of the Pucks Posse. $5 a month. You support all the free content that we do, exclusive shows like our baseball coverage with Brian Divish, the Sports Pit with Steve Sandmeyer and Matt Stretch Johnson. Our new show with Mitchie the Kid, Mitch Levy on Thursdays. And we now produce the Graz with Gas Take 5 podcast where you can find on YouTube and all podcast platforms. And, of course, at pucksports.com, new episodes of Graz with Gas Take 5 come out on Monday. We're going to have a short show tomorrow. Jim will be here. Travis Fulton will be here. And then Ryan Divish. We'll give you a little snippet. Why, you say? Don't tell anyone. Well, I'm not going to tell you because one of you will spoil it. And somehow my daughter will find out. It's my daughter's 16th birthday tomorrow. We're surprising her with something. So we're going to have a short show tomorrow. I think everybody will understand. 16. Unbelievable. Jesus. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you always for tuning in and watching and supporting everyone out there. You guys are the best. So we'll see you on a Wednesday show. As always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!